Good morning, L'chaim. Baruch atah Adonai Melech HaMashiach L'vorei. Back. Tuesday morning learning, our international interactive women's class. And today I wanted to focus on something that really profoundly impacted me when I realized I started doing the classes on saying yes to life. There's something magical about having that optimism to wake up every morning and say, yes, today's going to be a great day. And it's important to have that mindset. And I think today we'll delve into that. How do we get to that space of saying yes to life? How do we get to that space? So everyone make yourself a nice coffee. We'll start off first with a chapter of Tehillim and giving tzedakah. And of course, we're celebrating today, the Jewish world is celebrating that Idan Alexander came home, a young Jewish boy, American-Israeli. So impactful for all of us. A young boy who left New York, Tenafly, New Jersey. He used to go to the Chabad house of dear friends of ours and felt that it was his need to go protect Israel. 584 days he stuck and bruised and beaten, and the brutality that he experienced, it hasn't even come out yet. But we know that we have to say Shechianu, thank you Hashem that he's out, and beg Hashem that the other 58 should come home. So we'll say good morning to Lynn, good morning to Helga, good morning to Sophie, Boker Tov. We have Shimshon Aryeh ben Taiba, Gila Miriam Bas Chaya, Chaim David ben Ita, Shlomi Aaron ben Leah Shifra, Elisheva Bas Sarah, and Vera Bas Sarah. So welcome, and we will get started. Chapter Chaf. If you know it by heart, say it with me. Lamanatzeach Mizmor LeDavid, Yancha Dinar Biyom Tzara. Yisagefcha Hashem Elohei Yaakov. Yishlach Ezracha Mikodesh Umitzion Yisadeka. Yiskar Kol Menchosecha Valascha Yidash Nesela. Yiten Lecha Chavavecha V'chol Atzascha Yimale. Nirana B'shuvasecha Uv'Shem Eloheinu Nitgol. Yimalei Adonai Kol Meshavasecha. Ati Yadati Ki Yoshi Adonai Mashicho. Yaneu Mishmekotcha B'Gvuras Yesha Yemino. Ela Varecha Ve'ela Basusim V'Anachnu M'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Askir. Hema Karav V'Nafal V'Anachnu Kamnu V'Nisodad Adonai Hoshia HaMelech Yanenu B'Yom Karenu. May all of you experience only Gesund Nachas Parnasa Refuah Shalema for everyone. Yona Bas Chaya, Rivka Bas Freda, Karina Bas Malka. Sharon, do you want to put anyone's name down for Refuah Shalema? Okay, please put it down and we'll get started. So something really beautiful took place this Friday right in Toronto. So I don't know how many of you know what the concept is of going on Mivtzayim. Has anybody heard that concept? That there are boys that go on Mivtzayim every Friday, every Yom Tov. Have you ever heard that concept before? To go on Mivtzayim? Give me a thumbs up if you've heard it before. Take a guess what you think it might mean. So going on Mivtzayim means to go out to do some sort of mitzvah. So yes, Lipa Shlema ben Necha. Thank you, Sharon. So the boys have finished school on Friday, like most yeshivot. But Chabad boys don't just go home and eat, or don't go just to play basketball. They go on Mivtzayim, which means that they go to businesses, to corners where there's a lot of Jews, and they put on tefillin and they give out Shabbos candles. This has been going on for over 50 years, when the Rebbe said that we have to get out of our comfort zone and bring Judaism to others. We can't wait for someone to knock on our door or to come to our home or to come to our synagogue. We have to go to them. And many interactions are like nasty, like, I'm not Jewish, I don't want to know. Or someone is, I'm not Jewish, but I don't believe. And the Bachrim are like tough, and they're like, have a great day. You know, people always say, how do Lubavitchers become so successful the Shluchim are so successful at such a young age? You know, they're building Chabad houses, the $5 million Chabad houses, and they're 29 years old. Because they were trained at a young age to go ask others to put on tefillin, to go ask others to light Shabbos candles, and they're not scared of rejection. It's like, whoopee. You said no? No problem. We will go on to the next Jew. So these two boys in Toronto go every single Friday on Mivtzayim. So they're going to bring Judaism out to the world. And so these two boys specifically go to the apartment buildings on Bathurst and Steeles. Anybody familiar with Bathurst and Steeles? Give me a thumbs up. Bathurst and Steeles area in Thornhill. Lauren, are you familiar with that area? Bathurst and Steeles? So these two boys are doing their rounds, and they knock on one door that the man opens up every single morning, every Friday. This man opens the door. He's an elderly Jew, and he waits for them to come to put him on tefillin. He's a little bit disabled, not very healthy, but he waits and opens the door for them every Friday. And they're knocking on the door, there's no answer. They're knocking on the door, there's no answer. The boys are concerned because he's always there. This man is always opening the door for these two Lubavitch boys to do Mivtzayim. He wants to put on tefillin. He waits a whole week. When these boys see that there's no answer, they run to the superintendent and they say, something is weird. He opens the door and they find this man totally disabled, unconscious. They call the Hatzalah who saved this man's life. They said for 12 hours he's been laying there without any health. I'm not sure what the level of disability was or the level of interaction was, but they saved his life. And these Hatzalah members shared this story, not the two young boys who like, whatever, we're not heroes, we're nobodies. These two Hatzalah members took to the web, took to the internet to say thanks for the tefillin that this man puts on. And these two boys who schlep every Friday, rain, snow, sleet, or hail, they're there banging on the doors to put on tefillin, and they saved this man's life. So l'chaim. L'chaim to the young Lubavitch boys who spend every Friday doing such selfless work. L'chaim to the people who open their doors and are happy to put on tefillin. L'chaim to all of you that encourage these young boys and girls, these Chabad young boys and girls, and you are behind them, and you see the value and the gorgeousness, is that a word? The gorgeousness of these boys, the selflessness, the dedication to another Jew. And that's my topic today. If you want to change the world, you start with yourself. Our talk tonight is on finding your focus. This is a 5-part series that I'm giving at Shul, but I'm only going to share one. Karen, we missed you last night. Hi, Arlene. Good morning. So we speak about how do you find your life mission? And I'm specifically using the word focus because so many of us tend to dabble in so much because we want to do so many things. And the Torah tells us a very beautiful concept. It's called Chelko Be'olam. If anybody knows what that means, if any of our Hebrew-speaking friends know what that means, Chelko Be'olam. We know when God created the world, He created the world with a lot of opportunities for goodness and kindness. He also created the world with sparks everywhere. And he asks of you and me to reveal those sparks. That when we visit places that you imagine another Jew has never been at, think of your opportunity how to reveal godliness in that space. That's what it means to be mivarer nitzutzim, to uncover sparks. There is sparks everywhere. Every time you walk into a supermarket and you smile at someone, at that space, you were just mivarer nitzutzim. You have just redeemed and uncovered godly sparks. And who knows? Those sparks could have been there for thousands of years and were waiting for you to reveal your chelko be'olam, your space on the world. Because if God took you to that space, right? We spoke about hamechin mitzadei gaver. It's one of the morning blessings we say every morning. Thank you, Hashem, for helping us, show us our direction in life. So if you, by chance, walked into a Food Basics or a No Frills or a Olive Branch or a Sobeys, it wasn't a coincidence. You were meant to be in that supermarket because there are people that you have to smile at. There are people that you have to help. There are people you need to support. That's part of your chelko ba'olam. So when you walk into a store, it's not you just came to get fish and meat and bread. You came to be mivarer nitzutzim. I want you to think about that for a minute. This is how Jews live. We think every minute about how we can elevate our space. We're not just here to shop and wine and dine and take care of ourselves. Every moment of our day, we have to think about, how am I being mivarer? How am I revealing sparks in my chalik, in my space? Some of us think, well, what's the big deal about going to a supermarket? I need to do big things. You know, there was a rabbi in the 60s who asked the Rebbe for guidance. He says, I feel like there's so much I need to do for promoting peace for the Vietnam War. But I know I have a community, but on the other hand, I know there's this big war in Vietnam, and isn't it my responsibility to go out there and, encourage the protests and make big events outdoors? Like, isn't that my thing? Or should I worry about my community, my synagogue? And the Rebbe said to him, start with your community. And once you work with your community, it will have rippling effects to everyone that comes in contact with you and all of your people. I'm going to share with you such a beautiful saying that I'm sure many of you have heard before. And it is about finding your focus, but how so many of us try to change the world when really we'll be lucky if we change ourselves. Tell me if you've ever heard this idea. When I was a young man, I wanted to change the world. I found it difficult to change the world, so I tried to change my nation. When I found I couldn't change the nation, I began to focus on my town. I couldn't change the town. So as an older man, I tried to change my family. As an old man, I realized the only thing I can change is myself. And suddenly I realized that if I had changed myself, I could have made an impact on my family. My family and I could have made an impact on my town. Their impact could have impacted the nation. And then I indeed could have changed the world. Chelko ba'olam. Start in your small spot of the world, and the rippling effect will change your town, your nation, and the entire universe. Wasn't it Gandhi that said, if you want to change the world, start with yourself? I'm sure you heard that one. Or how about this one? Be the change you want to see in the world. So every time we wake up in the morning and we say Mota Ani, Arlene said, I once smiled and said hello to someone in the supermarket. She looked back at me and said, what are you so happy about? You know, Arlene, I have that same feeling. I like to say hello to people. And when I do, I would say 80% smile back with this like, wow, what is she drinking? On the other hand, the other ones just look annoying. And I feel bad for those that look annoyed. But maybe the next person they'll smile at. Because you definitely have rippling effect, right? It says in the Talmud, Reish Lakish said, beautify yourself first and afterwards beautify others. In fact, there's a halacha, Jewish law, that says, first you have to give charity for your own. Then you share with the rest of the world. It starts off with your family, then with your community, then with your city, and then others. Last night we spoke a lot about how in Toronto, and I don't know about the rest of the world, so definitely enlighten me, every museum in this city, every place of theatrics, every hospital has names of Jews adorning their walls. Every plaque, at least 60% of the plaques have Feinbergs, Goldbergs, Wahlbergs, Shapiros, Friedmans, you name it. It's all the Jews. We're always helping. I think what October 7th taught us, our charity now has to start helping our own. Hospitals, obviously. But art museums, I think they'll have to go to the McDonald's and the McMormicks and the McGalleries. We have to help Israel. We have to help the poor in our city. We have to help our own hostages. We have to help our own IDF. We have to help at home. This is halacha. This is not Goldie. This is halacha. Halacha says we start with our family first. And I'm going to quote the Talmudic passage. If you have a choice between supporting those who are poor in your family or the poor of your city, the poor in your family take precedence. If the choice is between the poor of your city and the poor of another city, the poor of your city takes precedence. This is a Talmudic passage. But you know the joke. You know the joke. Unfortunate joke about the very, very wealthy man. Someone approached him and said, sir, there are so many poor in this city. We need to help them. They need clothing. They need to pay for their mortgage. They need to help pay for their children's schooling. Can't you help? And this very arrogant rich man says, what? You don't know my brother, the poor man who lives in this city? He can barely cover his rent. His children are walking around without shoes. They have no food for Shabbat. And the Jewish man goes, wow, I didn't realize. He goes, yes. And they have a daughter they have to marry. They have money for the wedding. If I don't help them, you think I should help you? Och and vei. For people that have money and don't share their wealth. Every Jew is mandated to give 10%. It's not considered charity. It's considered tzedakah, justice. 10% of our income every month is not ours. Keeping that 10% is actually stealing. That money belongs for charity. You can choose which charity. God gave us the beautiful opportunity that each one of us make paychecks, even poor people. If they collect $100, they have to give 10. Because after that mitzvah, God says, when you give tzedakah, I will give you back 10 times as much. So if a poor person would realize that from their $100 they earned, they give 10, Hashem will show them increase upon increase, and they will make back 10 times more. And so it goes. When you give tzedakah, you get back. You never lose, ever. But the Talmudic passage I was sharing with you now tells us we're we have to give tzedakah. Charity begins at home. There's a beautiful saying, act locally, impact globally. Right? We know the butterfly effect. And I know it's a mathematical equation, but in simplistic terms, when a little butterfly generates a beat, an extra beat, that in fact has far-reaching impacts. And as the mathematical quotient goes, it can actually shift a path towards a tornado many, 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 many thousands of miles away. A little beat from a butterfly can impact a tornado on the other side of the world. So we think, wait, I don't want to do small things right here in my city. My city is so small for me. I want to make big impacts. Remember, act locally, impact globally. That's a definite truism. Rabbi Chaim Gutnick was a chief rabbi of Australia. And one of the first things the Rebbe told him when he came to Melbourne, Australia, is to start working with the local community on making classes. In your community. Don't worry about the whole Australia. Start with your little community. And the Rebbe told him specifically to begin with classes on Taharat Mishpacha. Does anybody know what is Taharat Mishpacha? Anybody know? It's a mitzvah. It's one of the Rebbe's 10 campaigns, mitzvah campaigns. Taharat Mishpacha. I'll give you 2 minutes to put it down in the comments. Okay, did I stump you guys over there? Taharat Mishpacha means family purity. And that's the mitzvah of mikvah. The Rebbe was all about making sure Jewish women go to the mikvah. And if you, by the way, those of you listening, if you haven't gone since your last period, even if that was 10, 20 years ago, you can still go one more time to the mikvah, so reach out to me. So, yes, family purity. Thank you, Helga. And so, family purity was a biggie, and Rabbi Chaim Gutnick was asked by the Rebbe to make classes in Melbourne, Australia. And so he publicized it everywhere. Now, this is in the 60s. There wasn't social media. He had to take posters and hang them up in all the stores and all the synagogues. He made a big event, set up hundreds of chairs. One lady showed up. You know, they say, what's worse when you make a big event and one person shows up and no one's showing up? You know what's worse than no one showing up? One person showing up. If no one shows up, you could just fold up the chairs and don't say a word. But when one person shows up, how humiliating is it? So, as many shluchim always did, they would write something called a duch. We write a letter to the Rebbe at the end of the week telling the Rebbe what you accomplished that week. And he says to the Rebbe, unfortunately, my Shalom Bayit, my Taras Mishpacha event was a big flop. One lady showed up. It was so humiliating. The Rebbe sends him back a letter, and the Rebbe says to him, really? Moshe Rabbeinu had one mother. How do you know the woman that was in your audience? How do you know how much you impact her? And how much she is going to impact her children, who will then impact others, who will then impact others? Act locally. Impact globally. You never know how much you're impacting the world by just being nice and giving a smile to one person. A similar perspective was offered to a new chaplain who was on the university, and he had 7,000 Jewish students. He didn't realize the magnitude of his role. He sent a letter to the Rebbe and he goes, oh no, what should I do? I have 7,000 students. How in the world am I going to take care of one? Imagine 7,000. So the Rebbe said to him, you don't have to worry about 7,000. Just impact 7. Those 7 will impact another 7. Those will impact another. And before you know it, you will have impacted 7,000 1,000 students. It sometimes seems overwhelming with our responsibilities. Good morning, Natalie. Good morning, Naomi. Good morning, Helga. Sometimes it seems so overwhelming. My job, my role, it's so big. How am I going to, little me, going to do it? The Rebbe says, don't worry. Just locally. Just take care of one. Moshe Rabbeinu had one. Be kind, generous, smiley, positive with one person. And that person will affect another few people. And you will be performing the butterfly experience. You will actually be able to benefit a tornado on the other side of the world just by you being you. And we know the importance of taking care of our community. How many of you have ever heard of the word gamach? A gamach. It's an acronym for Gemilat Chasadim. Anybody ever heard of a concept, a gamach? Most Jewish communities have a gamach. My husband has one in our shul, but I'm going to ask you first, what is a gamach? Please put it on the comments. Anybody? Okay, as I said, gamach stands for Gemilut Chasadim, kindness. That is one of the traits of a Jew. We spoke many times about 3 obvious traits of a Jew. Gomli Chasadim, they are charitable. Baishanim, they are bashful. And the third one I forget. It will come to me soon. 3 traits that prove to you who is a Jew. And the first one is to be charitable. It's one of the strongest parts of our DNA. And so we have a gamach is actually an institution, and it can be something in someone's basement. But people set up gamachs where they loan and share what they have with others. So if I have extra flower vases, like 30, because I made up our mitzvah and I have tons, I will share that knowledge with my friends and say, if anybody ever needs flowers or vases, I have a gamach, a flower vase gamach. You can come to me, loan them, and give them back, free of charge. Some people have a tablecloths gamach. You need a tablecloth for your simcha. You need 10 tablecloths for your simcha. You go there, you take the tablecloths, you use them, wash them, bring them back. You saved yourself renting tablecloths, and now you were a recipient of a gamach. The woman who loaned it did a mitzvah because she was charitable. You received. You don't have to be poor to take a gamach. There are gamachs for gowns. There are so many gamachs in Toronto. I remember going for Shalom Bear's wedding. I wasn't interested in spending $1,000 on a gown. I went to a gamach. I tried on. There were thousands of gowns. I tried them on. At the end, I didn't take from that gamach. One of my friends gave me a gown. That's what Jews do. So many brides, when they finish using their gown, they don't just stick it in their closet. They share it with a gamach. And that gamach has a bridal gown gamach, where people who are coming and need and don't want to waste money or spend money on a gown, they don't have an extra $1,000 lying around, they come. They can take the gown if it fits them. There's a slight charge sometimes to pay for the cleaning, but you are a beneficiary from a gamach, and the person who has the gamach is giving a beautiful gift to the Jewish community. In fact, it was former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. Before she was a prime minister, did you know that she was a conservative member of parliament for a city called Finchley, North London? And you know what she said about that community? That city has a lot of Jews. And she said this, that for the 30 years she served in that community, in Finchley, This is a very, very large Jewish community. She said, not once was she approached by a person in need. Why, she says? Thanks to the Jewish community, they have many varied welfare programs that are geared to supporting those in need. My friends, do you realize who we are? Oh, I remember the third thing. Rachmanim Baishanim Gom Lechasadim. Merciful, bashful, and charitable. Those are the three signs of a Jew. This sign of taking care of our own, that's a sign of a Jew. The story I told you before of that miser, why do we have such stories? Because they're scarce. Because a Jew is never really a miser. Very far in between. Most Jews are charitable. I say it out loud. That is the sign. That's part of our DNA. Even Margaret Thatcher understood that in Finchley, North London, she didn't have to worry about the poor because the Jews take care of their own. We have your back. Someone in my class last night was saying, downtown, the homeless in Toronto, it is an epidemic. They come here from all over the world, immigrants. Trudeau let them in by the millions and no one to support them. They're sleeping in the street. You won't find one Jew sleeping in the street. We take care of our own. And if you're saying, why don't we take care of the Syrians and the Iranians and the Egyptians that come here? The Torah says you have to start with your own. That is mercy. If your brother is poor, take care of him before you worry about your neighbor. Your brother's blood is first. You have extras, thousands of extras. Of course, I was downtown with my granddaughter this week. We went to see the beautiful flower exhibit. I don't know how many of you saw it. It was gorgeous. We walked thousands of footsteps, thousands of steps. I was exhausted. She wasn't. And we went all around Bloor Street and Bay Street and Yorkville and Cumberland and Charles Street, all over. These beautiful, and of course, we encountered homeless. And I took out my change and I said, Mushka, sweetie, give it to the poor man. He's clearly not Jewish, but if you stumble upon a poor man, we had a banana, we gave him a banana. He took it. No, thank you. Who needs a thank you? You have to help the poor. But my mission right now is I help Jews in Toronto. Jews in my Chabad Markham community is first. Jews in Toronto is first. Tamim Academy, pitch for Tamim Academy. That Jewish school, we have subsidies. We raise thousands of dollars. If you have extra money, please send it to me. Tamim Academy, if you're region. We pull kids out of public school to give them a Jewish education. And I want to thank so many of you who do support my school. I have a friend who lives in California. She supports my school. She cares so much for Jewish children and she heard about my school because of this Facebook class. So all of you watching today, it's not coincidence that you're watching. Give 10% of your income. Give it to Tzedakah, IDF, Magen David, Zakah, Tamim Academy. So many mitzvahs that we can accomplish. And that is today's class, finding your focus. Have an amazing day.